Hey everyone, Lord Rho here, and today, oh yes, we are talking about Rogal Dorn versus Alpharius. Now, this is the second upload in my little Dorn and Alpharius series, so if you haven't seen the previous upload of Dorn meeting Alpharius, then go check that one out first, as it sets the relationship of Dorn and Alpharius really well, so it's definitely worth checking that out before continuing on with this one. And as usual, before I continue, spoiler warning as usual. Today we are covering events from the novel Praetorian of Dawn, and I really recommend you go check this novel out for yourself, as that's the way you get the most enjoyment out of it. As always, I have the novel version of this one, so I haven't heard the audiobook version to recommend like I often do, but I'm sure it's of the usual high quality of Black Library as usual, but I can thoroughly recommend the normal novel version for at least a good read. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Alpharius raised his head. Shreds of luminous ash formed and fell. Black cracks ran through the air. The pressure in the Huskarl's skull was the beat of a hammer. Reality split. Lightning bright lines cut into the air. Starlight burst outwards. Pressure waves ripped through the chamber. A circle of golden yellow figures stood above him, the plates of their Terminator armour fuming pale light. Clenched fists of jet sat on their shoulders. Emerald laurels circled the black skulls on their chests, and silver lightning bolts crossed their pauldrons in echo of their warrior ancestors who had unified terror. Archamus knew each of them, recognised them even through the layers of Indomitus pattern plate and the blur of his failing sight. They were his brothers, the Huskarls of whom he was master, and at their centre stood the only other being besides the Emperor who could bring them to battle. So here we have Rogal Dorn teleporting into battle, surrounded by his most trusted and senior warriors. Archamus found a breath come to his lips, and the numbness in his limbs and the pain in his chest receded. "Lord," he rasped, and the limbs that had refused to move until now, and the flesh that had failed his command, pulled him to his knees, and then to his feet. Rogal Dorn stood, head bare, flanked by his warrior sons, the gold of his armour luminous with warp smoke, blood rubies glittering in the claws of silver eagles, black eyes glinted in a face of hard control and harsh shadow. From across the chamber, Alpharius met his brother's gaze. "There are things that we should talk of, brother," said Alpharius. Dorn's face did not move. "Fire," he said. Oh, now that is a great entrance. Alpharius actually wants to talk, but Dorn, as uncompromising as ever, just simply replying with fire. Now that's a great entrance. That is awesome. That gave me like a little bit of goosebumps when I read that part for the first time, because you just knew that this is going down now. There's no talking resolution with Rogal Dorn, for good or bad. This is only going to end one way. The Huskarls fired. Light and bolt rounds sheeted out, rattling from barrels. Light flashed through the dark as the gunfire slammed into the fields that had snapped into place around Alpharius. Blinding whiteness filled the chamber as the shields flashed under the impacts. Archamus forced every sensation down, every feeling of weakness, every shred of agony, and forced himself forwards. The flaring light met his helmet lenses, and his sight vanished in a blur of stars and static. He reached up and yanked the helmet free. The air reeked of explosions and ozone. There was blood pouring from him, pooling inside his armour, falling on the deck as he staggered onwards towards his lord and brothers. Alpharius was nowhere to be seen. The Huskarls advanced. Archamus could tell from their movements that they were half blind from the light of the shields. The Huskarls kept moving, Dorn at their head, bolters firing as one. The rolling thunder of teleportation blended with the roar of gunfire as huge figures materialised in the chamber. Archamus was on his feet. Around him, two tides of armour slammed together, golden and blue. Huskarls and Lernians crashed into combat, blades shrieking as they bit into armour. Dorn swept forwards, and all Archamus could see was the blurred arc of Storm's teeth, rising and falling, blood and sparks and shredded metal. A Lernian flew back, a bloody canyon in his chest. Another stepped forwards, and the tip of the chain blade met his faceplate and bored into the skull beneath. Shards of metal and bone sprayed out as Dorn lifted the Terminator from the floor and then ripped the blade free. The next blow was falling before the corpse hit the floor. Now this is Primarch action. This is Rogal Dorn in action. Dorn is just laying waste to the Alpha Legionnaires with each stroke of his chainsword. He means business. To him, they are traitors. They have betrayed everything the Imperium stands for, and he will not compromise. The Huskarls moved with him in a wedge, hammer blows falling, a false thunder pealing. The Lernians tore into them, a chain fist sliced into a Huskarl's chest. Enamelled leaves fell as diamond teeth chewed through the honour laurel and into the armour and flesh beneath. A warrior with a saurian helm of tarnished silver punched the fingers of a lightning claw into a Huskarl and ripped the warrior in half with an explosion of lightning. Sheets of Volkite discharge stained the air red, and suddenly Alpharius was amongst the killing tide, his attacks not following rhythm or pattern. One instant he was in the front rank, the pale spear orbiting him, its blade a blur of blood and smoke as it cut through armour and limbs. The next he was retreating and lashing out as the Huskarls moved into the space. Then he was pressing close, hacking and stabbing like the butchers of the World Eaters, then piercing a throat with a thrust that was as light as breath of wind. Alpharius is proving he is not one to be messed with either here. Alpharius is never mentioned in any Primarch v Primarch contest. He's never brought up, which is probably how he'd like it. Obviously he likes to remain unknown and on the outskirts, but he's still a Primarch, and we see here that he is still an absolute god amongst demigods of war. Dorn drove into the Lernians, red spattering his face, Storm's teeth shedding blood. Then, with a suddenness that halted the shallow breath in Archamus' throat, Alpharius' spear thrust up from the press of ranks, its tip shimmered, silver reflection fading to mist, and Archamus thought that the sound fled from his ears as it drove at his lord's chest. It was a beautiful strike. In all the years of war, Archamus had never seen the like. Its simplicity, like a line drawn by a master artisan on a bare parchment. It was death and ruin, and silence without end. And Storm's teeth met the spear thrust, and reality shrieked. A sheet of silver sparks exploded from the point at which the two weapons met. Alpharius and Dorn stood before each other, and it was as though the universe made space for this meeting of brothers. Now this is fantastic writing here. I almost thought that the spear strike was going to land home, straight into Dorn's chest the first read through of that. Alpharius and Dorn stood before each other, and it was as though the universe made space for this meeting of brothers. Now, such a great line there, such a great line. "I came here for you, Rogal," said Alpharius as he slid back, spear spinning. Dorn was cutting again and again, and each blow churned the air. This is about victory, a true victory. The Lernian stepped into Dorn's path. Storm's teeth cut up through the torso of the Terminator. Gut fluid and blood gushed out as the dead flesh and armour fell. The Lernians and Huskarls were a shrieking circle around two Primarchs. "Look at this. Look at what I have done here. This is not a war you can win your way," called Alpharius. Dorn stood above him, and the spear was suddenly as still as his brother loomed above him, a sculpture of vengeance cast in gold. Dorn sliced downwards. Alpharius raised the spear. The weapons clashed, and suddenly the Alpha Legion Primarch was spinning close, Storm's teeth arcing past him harmlessly. But you are blind to what you are fighting. We are both fighting for the future, Rogal. Alpharius is trying to reason with Dorn, to get him to try and understand why he's doing what he is. He feels he has to take these actions for the future of mankind, misguided or not. But Dorn's just having none of it. And this actually shows us quite a lot around the lack of connection between these two brothers in particular. Many of the Primarchs as a whole, but because if Alpharius truly knew his brother, he would know that there is no chance of reasoning with Dorn in this moment. His plan is a hopeless one. If there was a Primarch of stubbornness, it would be Rogal Dorn. Alpharius lunged. Dorn jerked aside, blink fast. The spear tip caught his shoulder and punched through the golden armour. Dorn staggered. Archamus roared, breath ripping from his lungs as he plunged towards his Primarch. Lanian slashed at him with lightning-wreathed talons. He brought his pistol up and emptied the clip into the warrior's face and chest. Explosions punched the Terminator back. Archamus dropped the pistol and drew his Seax. The wind-bladed sword slid free of its scabbard and rammed into the Lanian's throat. Archamus wrenched it back, feeling the edge catch on bone as blood gushed over his bionic arm. "I did this so that you would understand," shouted Alpharius, "so that you would see you cannot win. I am not here to kill you, brother. I am not here for Horus. I am here to give you victory." Dorn was astride in front of Archamus, blood bright and scattering as he wrenched free of Alpharius' spear. The Huskarls fell, their legs cut out beneath them as Alpharius spun wide, spear arcing low like a scythe through long grass. And now Dorn stood alone, blood running down the gold of his armour. Again, Alpharius showcasing that he is, like all his brothers, a master of combat. Rogal Dorn may not be in everyone's top tier of Primarch fighters, but he's still a monster of war, and Alpharius is pushing him to his very limit here. "I know the enemy," said Alpharius. "I know your weakness, and theirs. I know the truth." Dorn stepped forwards, Storm's teeth slamming down, battering into the spear blade in a blaze of light. Alpharius slipped to the side, and Dorn turned the direction of his cut as it fell. But Alpharius was not where his movement should have taken him. He was behind Dorn's cut, and the blade of his spear slicing down. "I can give you victory, brother." Alpharius urged him again. Dorn swayed aside, and the spear blade skimmed his chest. Slivers of gold and silver feathers fell to the deck, and Alpharius was overextended, and Dorn was turning, his strength flowing into a wide lateral cut that would never land. It would never land because in that instant, Archamus saw what was about to happen. Alpharius was not overextended. He was exactly where he needed to be to turn past Dorn's blow and make another, last, perfect thrust with his spear. Archamus felt his blood-drained body try to move faster, try to push itself across the few meters separating him from his lord, whose life and service were the reason he did not fear. Dorn cut, Storm's teeth blurred. Alpharius swayed back, pivoting and sliding a hair's breadth past the screaming edge. Archamus lunged to his lord's side, his Seax blade reaching for the spear thrust, even as it unfolded. His blade caught the haft of Alpharius' spear, and the force of the connection kicked through his metal arm like the kiss of a lightning bolt. Archamus reeled back, staggering to the deck, and the spear struck home. Now, this can be taken in a few different ways, and has been by many, depending on your point of view. But the way it reads to me is that Alpharius' blow struck home exactly where it was intended, despite Archamus' attempt to try and help his Primarch. His blade caught the haft of Alpharius' spear, and the force of the connection kicked through his metal arm like the kiss of a lightning bolt. Archamus reeled back, staggering to the deck, and the spear struck home. So, yeah, obviously it's open to interpretation, but nothing there shows me Archamus has achieved anything other than just trying to save his Primarch to no effect. For me, it kind of comes across as it's just adding to the drama of the moment. The moment a Primarch could lose their life. And the passage shows us even more so. It rammed through Dorn's armour and into the flesh, and stopped. Dorn stood, unmoved. The spear embedded in his shoulder where he had stepped in to take the blow. His left hand was locked around the spear's haft. And there we have it. Dorn, silent throughout the fight, has been analysing his brother's every move, and he has calculated this exact moment. It rammed through Dorn's armour and into the flesh, and stopped. Dorn stood, unmoved, the spear embedded in his shoulder where he had stepped in to take the blow. His left hand was locked around the spear's haft. Dorn has taken this blow. Just pure and utter tank mode. Dorn taking a spear to the shoulder to immobilise his brother. Now that is one of the most badass moments of the Horus Heresy right there. For an instant, the two Primarchs were an arm's reach apart, eye to eye. "Brother," Alpharius began, and Dorn hacked Storm's teeth through Alpharius' arms above the wrists. Blood and sparks fell in the flash of gunfire. The world became a slow sliding tableau of movement. Dorn's face, cold stone, marked with blood and strobing shadows as he pulled the spear from his shoulder. Alpharius staggering, lashing out with a kick. Another cut, scything from left to right. Storm's teeth ripping armour like a parchment. Red gloss sheen on indigo blue. And a demigod falling. His torso an open cave of meat and bone. The only sound, the growl of Storm's teeth and the clang as Alpharius struck the deck and began to rise, strength defying the red ruin of his body. Dorn still had the spear in one hand. But victory! Alpharius gasped. Dorn rammed the spear through his brother's chest. The tip punched through the power plant on the back of Alpharius' armour. Alpharius' mouth opened, his eyes wide. A great wash of blood poured from between his teeth. Dorn held him on the spear, the two so close that it seemed almost an embrace. The air around them was blurring, like a heat haze as the blood struck on the floor. A high wail was rising with a coil of wind which circled the pair. Alpharius' mouth moved, forming words. Dorn was still for a second, his eyes blank and black in the carved stone of his face. Then he punched Alpharius away. Snakes of light writhed through the air. The Primarch of the Alpha Legion staggered, mouth still moving. Rogal Dorn brought Storm's teeth around. The blade cut down through Alpharius' skull and then tore free in a spray of blood and a detonation of light. Oh, there we have it. Wow. Just wow. Where to begin? What an amazing piece of writing. I often talk of how I really tend to enjoy Guy Haley's novels, in particular the best, but all credit to John French, the author of Praetorian of Dawn here. This is some truly, truly amazing writing. For an instant, the two Primarchs were an arm's reach apart, eye to eye. "Brother," Alpharius began, and Dorn hacked Storm's teeth through Alpharius' arms above the wrists. What a visual! Two Primarchs face to face for a moment. Alpharius knows here he has fallen into Dorn's trap. He wants him to see his version of the victory, but Dorn has already sealed himself off emotionally. He had the moment he teleported on to face his brother. You know, it's been building since news of Horus's betrayal, and now Dorn knows what he has to do to defeat them. And then just hacking his chainsword through the arms of his brother. Oh my god. I mean, by the Emperor. I'm not sure there are many other Primarchs who could have steeled themselves to do that. We even saw Russ hesitate when he had the chance to kill Horus. I mean, okay, not so much when he was fighting Magnus, but still. Dorn here, just an absolute stone cold killer. And then pulling the spear out of his own shoulder and ramming it through his brother's chest before essentially decapitating him. I mean, by the Emperor. That is why Rogal Dorn is the Praetorian of terror. That is why Rogal Dorn is loved by many of the fans out there. Just the sheer badassery of pulling the spear out of his own shoulder and then ramming it into his brother's chest. You know, look, like I've said before, I was not a Rogal Dorn fanboy before this book. You know, but I am now. Hats off. Dorn had to tank a spear to the shoulder to achieve victory. You know. And look, Alpharius is dead. That is clear as day here. There is no way on earth that is not a Primarch. He took Dorn to the limit. Dorn had to tank that spear to the shoulder to achieve victory. Long live Alpharius. But yeah, that was goosebump tingling, that whole encounter. Truly, truly writing worthy of a Primarch's death right there. And as for Dorn, well, this really steals his emotions going forward. There's an absolutely fantastic scene in Old Earth where Vulcan returns to Terra and meets with Dorn, where we get to see a more emotional side of Dorn, very slightly, and the effect this moment has on him. You know, it's, if you haven't seen my video on that, then definitely go check it out, as that's one of the best Primarch brother moments out there between two of the most underrated Primarchs really, in Vulcan and Dorn. But yeah, just wow for this whole thing. What did you guys think? Did you enjoy this moment as much as me? Do you think this beats Russ v Horus? Or Fulgrim v Ferrus? You know, Fulgrim v Ferrus seems so long ago now. Wow. Or the Lion v Kurz? Do you think Alpharius was wrong to try and talk to his brother? Were you surprised he used that tactic? Was Dorn right to not listen? As always, drop a comment down below. Let's get some discussion going. But a huge thank you to all of my subscribers. I truly appreciate all the support you guys give me, and I love interacting with you all. It's great to see such a great community. And as always, if you are new, please subscribe to join us all and just help this channel grow. I really, really do appreciate all the support. And if you enjoyed this video in particular, then consider dropping a like on it too. But with that said, I'm off, and I'll see you guys again real soon.